You were standing in front of the mirror, your delicate fingers were adjusting the red sari wrapped around your body. Your reflection looked beautiful yet nervous. You tucked a loose strand of hair behind your ear and sat softly behind you on the bed. Jungkook was laying still. His body was straight and his eyes were softly closed. He looked like he was asleep, but you knew he was not. He was listening. You took a deep breath and said softly while adjusting the blouse. Jungkook, my friends invited us to small get together today. It is at the XX hotel. We should leave soon. Jungkook frowned and then said, Sorry, Wayan, but I don't think so. I will be able to accompany you today. Why, Jungkook? Why can't you come? You asked while picking up the red bangles which were laying on the dresser. You slowly slid them onto your wrist. Jungkook pressed his lips together and sat up slowly. Once he found it, he sat straight and said quietly, Mayan, what if your friends make fun of you? What if they whisper behind your back that your husband is blind? You blinked at him and then shaking your head, you walked to him quietly. His eyes couldn't see you, but you knew he could feel your presence. You smiled softly and reached out, taking his hand in yours. Don't be scared. They won't. They already knew about you. And even if someone says something, I don't care, Jungkook. You are my husband and it is my responsibility. His ears turned red and his lips curved into a faint smile. But Ryan, I just don't want you to feel uncomfortable because of me. You won't feel me make me feel uncomfortable. You are my husband and I am proud of that. He faintly smiled, you chuckled and tapping on his hand you said, Now get up and get ready, Mr. June. We are already late. He gave a faint chuckle. Nodding slightly, you guided him carefully to the bathroom while intertwining your fingers with his. You sighed and walked to the dressing table to finish your makeup. After a while, you heard the door open. Jungkook stepped out wearing a white shirt and black trousers. You smiled unconsciously, looking at him through the mirror. You look handsome, you said warmly. Jungkook chuckled. I will take your word for it. You smiled and fetching out the hair comb from the dresser, you walked over to him, looking at his messy hair. You said, Wait, let me comb them with perfection. He nodded. But then his eyes widened and heartbeat raised when you leaned closer. You, being unaware, started to comb his hair. It is perfect, he said while stepping back. Ah, yeah, it is done, you said, smiling. Let's go then, he said politely. You nodded and grabbing your purse from the wardrobe, you rushed to him. Let's go. You held his hand in yours and gently guided him downstairs. Reaching the car, you made him sit inside while making sure that seatbelt was secure. Then you slipped beside him. As the car started moving, you rolled down the window so he could get fresh air. The cool breeze hit his face and he smiled. Thanks, that is fine. While he was looking out through the window with his eyes closed, his mobile phone rang without turning his head. He reached for his phone that was placed somewhere near him. Your breath hitched and you whispered, Oh, I'm sorry, I was actually searching for my phone. You sighed and forced a laugh. Oh, haha, here it is. You could have asked me. You grabbed it from the seat and placed it on his hand. He smiled, thanks. At the hotel. The hotel lobby was full of people. Soft music was playing in the background. You walked inside holding Jungkook's hand tightly as you were guiding him carefully around the table so he wouldn't bump into someone. Your friends noticed you from a distance. One of them, Minji, waved excitedly. Hey, Ryan, over here! You smiled and led Jungkook to the table. Everyone turned their heads. Minji grinned and said, Wow, your husband's so handsome. You smiled and helped Jungkook to sit on the chair. Jungkook smiled lightly and bowed at the empty table beside him. They all shared a look, but none of them said nothing. You gave them an awkward smile and sat beside Jungkook. Minji's boyfriend Han leaned in and addressing Minji, he said, Minji, what is the point of being handsome when you are blind? They all looked at him and tried to suppress laugh while your hands clenched. You looked at Jungkook and saw his jaw was clenched and his fingers were gripping the edge of the runner. Then your male friend Jihu smirked and whispered, Mayan, you're so beautiful. His girlfriend beside him immediately nudged his shoulder. Stop it, Jinu, please. You glanced over Jungkook. He had forced polite smile on his lips, the kind of people wear when they are trying to hide their pain. You looked back at your friends and letting out a deep breath, you held Jungkook's hand. He may not able to see me, but he feels me. They all looked at each other embarrassed. You stood up, Jungkook blinked when you helped him standing up. Why and what happened? Why you stood up all of a sudden? My father once told me that we should not sit on the table where we are not respected. Sorry, friends, but I just came to know that I made a wrong choice by making you all my friends. They looked down embarrassed. Jungkook blinked. You held his hand tightly and said a bit loudly so they all could hear you. Let's go. We have a lot of important things to do. They rolled their eyes as they clearly know that you said that to make them feel small. Jungkook brushed. You smiled at him and began walking to the outside. While you were passing by the lobby, Jungkook cleared his throat but said nothing. You frowned but didn't push. After a few steps, he cleared his throat once again. You sighed. Come on, don't feel uncomfortable. You can ask me anything. He gulped and then said, Thank you for accepting me with my drawbacks. You felt tears stung in your eyes. You reached out and touched his cheek gently. Don't say that, Jungkook. You are not my drawback. You are my strength. He laughed softly under his breath, turning his face towards you. You are too kind, Ryan. Sometimes I wonder what I did to deserve you. Maybe you loved someone so deeply in your past life that destiny gave you a second chance. Do you believe in past lives? He tilted his head. You looked at him, your lips curved into a soft smile. I believe in love that doesn't need eyes to see. Reaching the car, you made him sit inside gently and sat beside him as the driver started the car. In the evening, it was raining outside and you were standing in the kitchen making warm soup for Jungkook. Meanwhile, he was laying on the sofa. His one arm was resting under his forehead while the other was sleeping. You turned your head slightly and looked at him. The calmness on his face made you smile faintly. Sometimes you still couldn't believe how kind he was. You shook your head. You carefully poured the soup into a bowl just as you were about to turn off the stove. The front door creaked open. You frowned. The guard stepped inside with a man. The man was holding a tool bag. Ma'am, the plumber work was scheduled for today. He came to check all the taps, especially in the bathroom. You nodded your head. The guard bowed and walked out while the man stared at you. You quickly wrapped your pillow around it. Come, follow me. You were about to step forward when Jungkook's voice suddenly cut through the silence. He was listening to everything. Ryan. You stopped and turned to him. His head was slightly lifted and his sightless eyes fixed in your direction. Don't go with him. Tomorrow my man will come and check all the taps. Now ask him to leave and give me my soup. The plumber blinked, but you may leave, we don't need your service. The man's expression turned annoyed. He let out a small groan and muttering something under his breath, he walked out. You blinked and then walked to Jungkook. Jungkook, the taps are. Why? And I said my man will fix them now. Come here, I am hungry. You hesitated for a moment and then nodded. You carried the tray carefully to the sofa and sat beside him. You gently lifted the spoon and blew on it before bringing it close to his lips. His eyes softened slightly as he opened his mouth. When the bowl was empty, you took a napkin and carefully wiped the corner of his mouth. You make even soup more better. He murmured quietly, a small smile played on his lips. You blushed, pretending not to hear. I will wash the dishes. You said, and standing up, you went to the kitchen. He chuckled under his breath. Hey, Schwein, always run away when I compliment you. At night, as you finished the chores, you went to your bedroom to see Jungkook sitting on the bed with his eyes closed. He was listening to the sound of rain. The sleeves of his white shirt were rolled up and his hair fell softly over his forehead. He smiled and taking out his favorite novel from the shelf. You sat on the bed beside him. You want me to read your favorite novel? You asked him politely. He frowned while looking around as if he was not able to understand where the voice was coming from. You came? Yeah. If you are not tired, you can read it for me. You pulled the blanket on his body and said, No, I am fine. You lay straight. I will read out for you. As you were halfway through the chapter, you saw Jungkook. His eyes were closed and his expressions were peaceful. He had fallen asleep. You smiled gently, placing the book aside. You reached forward and adjusted his blanket. Good night, Jungkook. The next morning, you took out your white sari from the wardrobe and placing it on your bed, you glanced at Jungkook's sleeping face. You rushed to the bathroom. The faint scent of jasmine soap mixed with the morning air was soft and comforting. After a few minutes, you stepped out of the bathroom. The moment your eyes landed on Jungkook, you froze. He was sitting quietly on the edge of the bed. He was looking straight at you, not just force facing you looking. His gaze traveled up, meeting your eyes, and for a second your breath caught. There was no confusion in his expression, no hesitation. His eyes were focused, clear. Your eyes widened. Jungkook, what did you just say? He blinked once as he realized what he had let slip, but it was too late. Aren't you blind? He didn't answer immediately. His jaw tensed and his eyes softened, and then, after a long pause, he said quietly, No, I am not. Hearing that, the ground underneath you shifted. What do you mean? Did you lie to me? Mayan, wake up, please. He whispered while running a hand through your hair. A few minutes later, your eyelashes fluttered and you opened your eyes. He sighed in a relief and gave you a warm smile. You stared at him, still disoriented. Then slowly the memory hit you. You sat up abruptly. Jungkook, why did you lie to me? He looked away for a second and then letting out a sigh, he spoke. Because I wanted to know the truth. Truth? You asked, frowning. When my parents said that they want me to marry you, I thought you were like everyone else. That you only agreed because I was rich, because I had money, so I did all that to check your loyalty. And what did you just found out? Jungkook smiled and said, holding your hand. I found out that you are loyal, that you are exactly what I needed. You didn't see me as a burden. You cared for me, guided me. You treated me like a person, not a party story, and I fell for you every single day, Vayan. You stared at him, unable to speak. Your eyes became watery. So all this time you could see? He nodded gently. You couldn't hold that anymore. You exhaled shakily. Your hands were trembling. He chuckled softly. You can do both. He caressed your cheeks and said, From now on, there won't be anything hidden between us. You looked into his eyes, and for the first time, you didn't see pity or guilt. You saw warmth and love. Jungkook smiled through tears.